Great. So welcome to our panel discussion tonight on transition stories. I am pleased and thrilled to introduce you to our three wonderful speakers with very diverse experiences in transitioning into and throughout the second half of their lives. We have, two of our speakers are in retirement now and are on their, second, maybe third kind of gig or opportunity that they're doing in retirement. And our third speaker took kind of a non-traditional, I think, career path. And most of us go in one direction. I think she went in a bit of a different direction, which I think is really exciting. That's going to be, I think, give you a really good idea of all the possibilities that are out there when you're thinking about retirement or just the second half of your life. And really, there's no limit to the possibilities. And that's the big story I think our speakers are going to get across tonight, as well as how they're living their lives just through their passion and desire for active engagement. As they do that, how they're combating the stereotypes around retiring and aging in our country. So I think they will be very inspirational to you as you think about the second half of your life. So one of our speakers tonight is Lana Bowman, who is a retired cybersecurity professional and computer scientist who is very passionate about financial literacy. And she's the creator of Generational Wealth, a company focused on financial literacy and training around generational wealth. And she did that post-retirement. She's also the author of a fantastic children's book you can see there, Brandy and Piggy, the Piggy Bank. Our second speaker is Linda Ostavis, who has had over a 40-year career as a family attorney and has served on many organization boards, nonprofits throughout her career, and is currently on the executive management committee at Offutt Kerman. And Stephen Porter, who's a former part owner of a large securities and investment advisory firm, who after his retirement decided, based on his passion, to start a local nonprofit here in Howard County called Ohana. And so with that, I am going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to ask each of our panelists to introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about their story and their background. And Lana, I would love to start with you.
Sure. Can everyone hear me? Great. My name is Lana Wimberly Bowman. I'm a computer scientist and cybersecurity professional. I did 5 years working for the Department of Navy at their research and development lab, where I wrote code to have missiles intercept targets. That was very, very interesting. Then I went on to do 30 years at the Internal Revenue Service doing their cybersecurity, which was very large projects that span like 2 and 3 years at a time. During that time while I was working, I also belonged to a ladies investment club. And that's how I found out about financial literacy and loving the whole things about finance. I'm also a mother and married to my husband, Henry. One of the things that I did was totally different from me is writing my children's book, Brandon and Piggy, the Piggy Bank. I'm not a writer, I'm a scientist. So this is totally different for me. I enjoy, in my spare time, I do enjoy playing golf and traveling the world. So I do that. I also enjoy also going, I belong to a lot of organizations, some nonprofits, some just basic book club. I do enjoy learning new things. So one of my challenges coming out of retirement was to learn how to build my own website for my business, which was always fascinating. I enjoy serving the community. I am a financial mentor for my church, where I mentor young people in my spare time. And it's a little bit about me.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Stephen, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Okay, little bit different, but here I go. Let's go back 11 years, 2011. I was ending my career at a national securities broker-dealer and registered investment advisor with 4 of the partners over 25 years. Really built a regional firm into a national firm, sold it to an insurance company. And there, my training is CPA, MBA, certified financial planner. And, but I was able to do a lot of different things. I was chief financial officer, head of due diligence, head of recruiting, president of the broker dealer. So in my career, I could wear different hats and I kind of enjoyed it. I was able to, retire young at effectively at 57. And so with my last year in the company, well, let me back up. I treated personally, although we lived in Howard County since 1983, I've really treated Howard County until 2011 as really a suburb where I was kind of nationally focused. My wife, Susan, I think some of you know her, has been involved in our community for 30 years. She was kind of doing that in our family as we were raising two kids. So, and I wanted to kind of figure out how I could align my personal passion with needs of my community. So I went through Leadership Howard County. I know a few people here are leadership grads. And for how many people don't know of leadership? Well, okay. So I think probably pretty much everyone. But basically, it's a 10-month program, very expensive. I think currently it costs about $5,500, but it was really good for someone to get an idea of how the community works, what kind of role nonprofits take, where the needs are in the community. And after going through the program in June of 2011, met Pat Sassy, and she invited me on to the board of the Bright Minds Foundation. There I met Bill Gray too at the same time. And that kind of started me getting educated on how the nonprofit world works. So after my tenure at the Bright Minds Foundation, I also got more deeply involved in leadership and chaired or co-chaired different committees to see how leadership worked. And it was a very interesting organization, a very small staff with literally hundreds of volunteers who would put on 3 major programs throughout the year. And so I kind of got an education. I got an education on how women are really running the local world. And I'm saying that in a good way, in the sense that the nonprofit world, most of the major players are women. And, I was like 25 years with 4 other guys. And now I get to, be in a room and getting educated. Okay, women think differently and process things differently. And it was kind of an education for me. And then I also joined the Community Foundation 3 years ago. And in all my roles, I've tried to educate myself in the sense of doing things that I haven't ever really done, like fundraising, that kind of thing. Try to figure out, okay, do I have the skill set? Can I make it work? That kind of thing. What happened 2 years ago, this was in the summer of 2019. I read a book by David Brooks, he's a political commentator with the New York Times, pretty conservative, but I really like the way the guy thinks. And it was called The Second Mountain. And it was his way to kind of process what was going on there then politically. And it was really him going in depth into people in different communities and making a difference in their communities in certain ways. And in that book, I discovered the work of Sarah Heminger, who founded Thread 17 years ago in Baltimore. And it's a group mentoring program. They surround 4 kids. Four people surround a student coming into the 9th grade in really bad neighborhoods of Baltimore. And they have super results, high graduation rates, kids going to college. Some of their former mentees are now on their board. So super successful. And I've always been in my business career kind of a modeler. Okay, it's like, wow, this is a really good idea. Can it work in this situation or in this business or industry? And I thought, could it work in Howard County? And really sat down with my wife, Susan, of 47 years. And we said, wow, I think maybe we can make this work. So we built a business plan in the summer of 2019. And I'll never forget this. In early December, we sat down with Marcy Leonard, who's just an incredible educator in the county. She's currently the principal at Wild Lake High School and a former leadership grad, and kind of tested our assumptions. You know, were we out in left field? And it was a short meeting because we had sent it to her in advance. And she basically said, I'm in, I want to help. I want to pilot this at Wild Lake. It's really important. So it was kind of full ahead. And we brought in a group, in addition to Marcy, like 14 other people, some people in transition who felt this really made sense, created a 501c3 in 6 weeks, launched the pilot in the middle of COVID in August of 2020 with 10 students and 40 mentors. And we do things a little differently than Thread. Our mission's twofold. One is to surround a student, follow them for 10 years, and have them figure out what barriers they have to overcome, help them get there if we can, and help them figure out what self-defined success for them is. The other thing we want to do is, and this is just as important, is to connect people with people they would otherwise never meet. You know, because a few years ago, we were struggling with the emergence of the Black Lives Matter movement and, what to do. I personally think systematic racism in our country is a big thing. I know I've benefited as a white male in our culture. And if you take a look at Howard County is super diverse, but we're siloed. We're segregated, and Susan and I are Jewish. We belong to Temple Isaiah and Fulton. The Jewish community's siloed, the Black community siloed, the Korean community siloed, the Chinese community siloed, South Asian community, we're siloed by age, we're siloed by zip code and wealth. And so what we intentionally do when we form these Ohanas, the 4 people that surround the kid, we ask very personal questions: age, personal pronouns, religious background, if you belong to a congregation, which one, ethnic background, and occupation. And then we really diversify these people. So as an example, Susan and I were in the first Ohana and different ones. And I become friends with our youngest mentor, a guy named Daryl Jeffries. He's a Black guy, went to Wild Lake High School, is a student athlete at Frostburg. I'm a 68-year-old white guy. We're friends. Susan has the same relationship with a Black woman who went to Wild Lake, who's pre-med at Howard University. We'd never have these relationships. So we kind of think we're on to something. And what we've done this last year, we've expanded into 3 other schools, Long Reach, Oakland Mills, Hammond, where our kids went. They all have similar demographics to Wild Lake. About 40% of the kids are coming from free and reduced meals families. we have 8 committees, 1 employee, and a board of 20. And I think we're on track. We have in the field 160 people surrounding nearly 40 kids, where the mentorship is probably averages 90 minutes a week. And yeah, that's it. I mean, the one other comment, Susan and I always vowed we would never work together or start a nonprofit. And we broke both those vows. And it's basically, to be real blunt, it stress tested our marriage. We've had some vigorous discussions, but kind of work through that stuff because what we're doing we feel is important for the community. And that's kind of where we are. So we're moving quickly and we're kind of reevaluating what we're doing. But that's kind of where we are. So I'll stop there. That's longer than 5 minutes. Sorry.
No, that was
Okay.
fascinating. Thank you, Stephen. Your story is really interesting. Linda, I'm going to pass the baton over to you, please.
Well, I'm in such great company. Thank you, Lana. Thank you, Stephen. And thank you to Mary and to Pat for the invitation. So I am not retired and nowhere near retirement in my life, not the plan. So I have been practicing, as Mary indicated, for 40 years. I can't believe it's really been that long. I started out as a prosecutor in the state's attorney's office in Howard County. It was a fabulous career. I got to try, a lot of cases, a lot of high profile, really had a marvelous career there. But ultimately decided to go into private practice. So after 10 years, I did that. I had a partner named Fred Silverstein. We were partners for 19 years. We did pretty much exclusively family law work for most of that time. And then we kind of decided we were tired of being owners of the business and dealing with all the things that were related to that. So in 2015, I guess it was, we merged our firm with Offit Kerman, which is where I am permanently. So Offit Kerman has 500 employees, 250 attorneys, 16 offices in 9 states. And I say that to you because my job at Offit Kerman is to manage our lawyers to be successful. So I have gone from a path that maybe contemplated retirement to one that is nowhere near retirement at 65 years of age. So my path is perhaps a little different. I can't say that it was one that I necessarily consciously chose. I lost my fabulous husband, Jim, 8 years ago to cancer. It was and continues to be devastating every day. And before he was taken ill, we were planning on taking off Fridays and going to the beach for the weekends and, all kind of things that you hope you will get to enjoy with someone you love so much. And that couldn't happen. So what I ended up doing, not ever part of any plan, was throwing myself into other things. And so as Mary mentioned, I have been involved in, and that's really at the board level, the Rotary Club of Columbia-Patuxent, the Business Women's Network of Howard County. I'm the chair-elect of the Howard County Chamber of Commerce. I'm on the board of Respite Retreats. I was very involved in Leadership Howard County, ran the business day for a couple of years, and really just threw myself into things that were initially calculated to just fill time, a way to deal with pain sometimes, although you're not really dealing with it, is to fill time and get your focus on other things. And over time, what happened was, all these things began to really matter. They weren't just filling time. There were things that brought me pleasure to be able to do them. I became involved with a lot of people who I now count as, some of my closest friends along the way. So that was kind of my first, I would call this transition in the last number of years was I didn't want to be out at night. You know, I wanted to be home with my darling. I mean, and my home was my sanctuary. To going to someone who very much enjoys that activity, I can't wait for events to come back again. So that was one transition. And then I guess the second one, as I say, really was when I moved to Offutt Kerman. I went to Offutt Kerman as a practicing attorney and anxious to be involved in continuing my practice. I've been a litigator all my years. And one day my immediate boss walked in and said, you know what, how do you feel about getting involved in management? Which had never crossed my mind. And I will tell you that my path was, I was a practice group leader, first of all, which means I ran the family law group of about 20 attorneys. Then I became a practice group director, and I ran multiple practice groups. Then I became the chair of legal operations in the Office of Managing Principal, which is where I am right now. And 2 weeks ago, I was elected to the management committee of the firm. So people say to me from time to time, are you thinking about retiring? And my answer is absolutely not. And I look at my life and my career, and I think to myself, I'm on a trajectory, you know, for a young person. But I am energized by what I do. I thoroughly enjoy the people that I work with. And so, you know, on Sunday nights where sometimes there would be some angst about Monday morning, I don't feel that way. I am anxious to get in there and anxious to do what I have to do. And it's hard work. There's a lot of responsibility on the 6 of us for the 500 people we support. Sometimes I have to fire people. You know, it's not all fun stuff, but it is a transition. So while working at Offutt Kerman, I feel like I have, to some extent, transitioned my practice from full-time litigator, go into court and fight battles, to somebody who has the privilege, and it is a privilege in my view, of managing the firm, having the seat at the table, making decisions that affect a whole lot of people. So that's my path. That's where I am right now. I also travel a lot. I go to all 15 offices. We're in locations from New York to South Carolina. And of course, a lot of that travel stopped with COVID, but it's kind of starting up again, which is tiring. But I also thrive on my contact with people. You know, it doesn't matter where I go. I do my loop. I have to go see everybody. I have to look at them, make sure they're doing okay. So that's my story of, I guess we'll call it transition. Who knows what's next?
Thank you, Linda. And that's what I love about the three of you is there's a lot of commonalities between your stories, but your pathways have been very different, and you know how you went about getting there. So I was just curious as to, I mean, some of you mentioned a little bit about some tools you used, but what went into your process of, you know, actually making this decision about, so for Lana and Stephen, the actual going back to that decision to retire, before, you know, did you sit down and think about some of the things that you wanted to do? Were you thinking about what you were passionate about and how to get there? I know, Stephen, you said a little bit about going through Leadership Howard County to learn more about Howard County, and what tools did you use? So I guess I'll toss it to Lana and Stephen first, and then Linda, I'm going to twist the question a little bit for you after they answer.
Okay. So I'll go first. So one of the things that I did, I am also a project manager, so organization is one of the key things. And when you work for a large organization like the Internal Revenue Service, you always have to have everything planned out, and you know the projects are going to be 2 or 3 years long. So one of the things that I did was I started my business, Generational Wealth and Wisdom, while I was really working. I knew I wanted to do financial literacy because I thought if, I started reading all these articles about student debt and all of this other stuff. And so one of the things that I did was I started my business then. So, but I also wanted to teach my nieces and nephew and my child about generational wealth. And so I started my own family's investment club. And so with that, I put my LLC together. I started preparing presentations. I mean, I would just start putting presentations together, not even knowing what generational wealth and wisdom was going to be. And then just started reading articles and setting goals for myself. One of the things I did do is I had career goals and I had financial goals. And I knew once I retired at the age of 56 at the end of 2019, right before COVID. And so one of the key things was that when I had my career goals, I had reached all my career goals that I wanted to accomplish 2 years before I was eligible to retire. So I knew that part, and I had reached my financial goal to make sure that I was able to, do my budget. I had a retirement budget I calculated so I could make sure I could live off of the money that I was going to be bringing in. That was substantially less than what I was making in my career. So those were the two things that I did. I laid out my goals. I knew exactly what I wanted to accomplish in my career, but then I started laying out my goals for my business and what my products and services looked like and what community I wanted to serve.
Great, thank you.
With me, it was a little different. I'm not as organized, I think, as Lana. But basically, I knew social action was super important for both my wife and me. And in our company, we promoted people of color, women to significant jobs, that kind of stuff, helped other businesses. But I just felt there was something lacking. I was the first of our partners, the youngest one, the first one to leave, because I knew I wanted to do something else. And I also wanted to experiment. I mean, this is going to sound a little weird, but I saw retirement as kind of going to college. Experimentation. I changed majors 3 times in college. It was like, okay, let's try different stuff. So I taught myself to draw. I read 20 books on art and helped my son go from a legal practice into a fee-only financial planning practice. And I think that you all are really on the right track with developing a program that models somewhat of what leadership does, but for less number of hours and less costs. And I think it's something that is really, really needed. So got to make sure you get that done. But I mean, everyone needs a little structure, and people. I have some friends who have really changed careers and after retirement, and some couldn't do it. They just saw themselves in kind of one way with one skill set. And, I would argue, after 60 or 65 years, you develop different roles and skill sets, and they're applicable in different ways, right? I mean, you just have to kind of figure it out and experiment, and you learn kind of what you want to do by doing stuff. You figure out, wow, I don't really want to do this. So, yeah, I mean, that's
Great. Thank you. So before we go back to Linda, we had a couple questions come in specific to Stephen and Lana that I want to ask. So Stephen, the question for you was, how do you choose your students? How do you select them? for your
the-
program at Ohana?
Yeah, initially in the pilot, the middle school selected them. And remember, the middle schools kind of really knew the students well because they selected the students and they kind of knew them because COVID had just started for about half the school year. Now, the high schools are selecting the students and we aren't actually having the students and their mentors meet until mid-November. So they have the first quarter to really evaluate and to get to know the students.
Thank you. And then Lana, we have 2 questions around your children's book. So what got you interested in writing a children's book? Or, what inspired you? And are there plans for a sequel or additional educational programs or outreach following on the book's theme and success?
So first of all, thanks for the question. I'm going to show you my book.
Excellent.
What got me interested in writing the book is I would tell my son, I'm not originally from Maryland. I'm from Pass Christian, Mississippi. And so I would tell him in order for us to go see my parents and the rest of the kids, because he's the only child, we had to save our coins. And so my son's name is Brandon. And so we would put our coins in a piggy bank. My father passed away in 2016 and I was grieving. And June 2016, and I was grieving June 9th. And I sat on my deck and I started writing. And that was the grieving process. And the book came out of the grieving process. So I have written the second book. I knew I would write a second book because the book talks about setting goals for children to set goals for their money. A savings goal, a spending goal, an investment goal, and a giving goal. Because I think that's the issue is people feel that they just want to spend all of it. But if they have a goal across their money, then they won't feel deprived. The next book, yes, is just been finished with my editor. And just to give you a little gist, it's the Secret Piggy Bank Club, where Brandon teaches, I'm big into diversity. Brandon teaches these 2 twins how to then, set goals for their money. And around that, they start a club. And I'm working on the 3rd book. I was working on it today, which will have a female, a young girl. And she'll be more like me, nerdy, and so a go-getter. And did I answer all the questions? I don't know if
Yeah, just any additional educational programs that your outreach you do related to the book to get the message out to more people or help more younger kids with financial literacy?
Yeah, so one of the things is I'm not good with marketing. I'm a scientist and a nerd, so I have a lot of introvert issues that I'm dealing with as I do something in the private industry world of entrepreneurship. But yes, I am on the board of Touchstone Financial Services, which is a nonprofit organization. So I'm working with them and they're just getting started, actually. My child did not go to Howard County schools, so I don't really know. I'm learning about the county, even though I've lived here for 30 years. So the whole navigating Howard County is new to me. I did join Businesswomen Network of Howard County as a way to get connected. I have done things at other libraries, but this was prior to COVID. But once the library was closed here and I'm not into the school systems, the school systems have been closed, I need to build that relationship. And that's one of the things that I'm lacking and I need to do a little bit better. I wrote my book in August 2020. So of course, COVID was full blown by then. And then unfortunately, I had some emergency issues in my family. So I sometimes leave for 3 or 4 months at a time due to those things. Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, thank you. So thanks for the questions. Keep them coming. We have a couple specific questions, but I want to jump over to Linda first and ask her about, you know, sort of what she thought about as, you know, I kind of heard two kind of big transition or decisions for you. One was to, you know, go from private practice to a larger practice. And then the decision to get more involved in management and actually sort of pivot in your career and sort of, you know, I don't want to say start over in the sense because a lot of your experience were required there, but you did start down a new path that was a lot of, I assume, you know, work and learning and new experiences for you. So what, can you talk to us a little bit about what your thought process, what tools you might have used or catalysts for making those two major transitions?
Sure, I'm happy to. So I guess the first segment of my career was as a prosecutor, which I've described as really being a fabulous, fabulous career. But I will tell you that I got to the point at which I was a little bored. And what would happen was people would come in, attorneys would come in, they would plead their clients guilty or they do a not guilty statement of facts. And it wasn't the trial work that I really enjoyed, first of all. And secondly, they were making a lot of money walking in and doing that. And I thought, you know, I can do better and different than this. So that was really sort of the catalyst for my leaving the state's attorney's office and opening my own practice. I guess the second sort of transition was forming the partnership that I did with Fred. And that really was almost one of those natural things. We were in the same building. We were co-owners of the building. We shared some resources. We did a lot of the same kind of work. In the years that I was a prosecutor, he was a public defender. I mean, so we were friends. We knew each other so well. We trusted each other completely. And it was somewhat of a natural process, if you will, to really formalize that relationship. And then the one moving from our partnership to Offit Kerman was a different phase of our lives. And again, that was tired of, you know, we had a building in Ellicott City that was old. You know, everything that happened was an issue. Every time we had an IT issue, we had to figure out how to resolve it. Every time somebody had to be hired or fired, we had to deal with that. You know, all the stuff of running a business got to be tiring for us. And we had relationships with the leadership at Offit Kerman. And so the purpose of that transition was to say, okay, let's leave the management running the business behind and just go practice law. And of course, you talk about my pivot, which has gone directly back to management again. So maybe I wasn't so successful in that. I don't know. But it's different management when I had to deal with everything personally. I mean, we are a big organization. We have departments to deal with things now. So I'm not actually handling every single thing. But those were the factors that caused each one of those events to happen. I will tell you that in the period of time right before I got into management at Offit Kerman, I was very much considering maybe not retirement, but doing something dramatically different. Because I had gotten to the point where I was tired of fighting all the time. You know, litigation work is adversarial, and it's adversarial almost all the time. And I've been around a long time. You know, how people relate to each other has changed over all those years. And it's gotten a lot harder than what it used to be, you know, figuring out who you can trust. You know, so it just was kind of getting harder. And I really and truly was looking for something totally different, a bagger in a food store, whatever, just something to get out of that constant, this kind of a situation. So when leadership came my way, it really was the right thing at the right time. And it wasn't conscious that I was going to go to management, but it was conscious that I needed to get out of what I was doing. And then this fortunately came my way.
Well, Linda, that's a perfect segue right into a question that an audience member asked us, which is, what would you say to people who feel like they have to retire due to feeling like they are viewed as too old to be working in a traditional setting?
Bullshit. There's no such thing. No such thing. And again, I sort of marvel a little bit at where I am and what I'm doing at my age. And you know, I don't think about age. I really don't. I am healthy. I can continue to do what I'm doing. I work lots of hours. I travel. I deal with people all day, every day. And I find that energizing. That's something that makes me feel better. And I think about the alternative to that. So Lana and Stephen each have a passion which has fulfilled them, even though they've retired from their first career. I don't have one. And, you know, when I think about retirement or somebody asks me, first of all, I don't have my love to retire with. But secondly, I don't have anything to retire to. So if I wanted to feel old, I'd retire. And I'd what, sit and watch TV or eat bonbons or something? I don't know. But I find it to be an energizing situation, not one where I say to myself, gee, am I too old to do this? And I don't think it happens, but I don't think anybody looks at me as old. And maybe because I don't act my age, maybe I just don't tolerate it. I don't know, but I find it to be energizing and not too old.
And I loved how you said retire too,
Mhm,
because I think that is so important,
mhm.
that it's not just retire and do nothing, but it's, we have plans and things. So one question for you, Linda, again, is along these lines, how do you, from our workshop attendees, how do you think your experiences as a prosecutor, family attorney, and administrator have informed your growth and expanded your worldview?
I was actually having a conversation with somebody earlier today. I sit on the Judicial Nominating Commission, which is the commission that determines which names go to the governor when he's going to appoint a circuit court judge. And the conversation was about how when I was a prosecutor, so I was a baby lawyer then, I applied to be a judge. I was never appointed as a judge, so let me just say that at the outset, which really was a blessing. And at that time, I thought to myself, well, I can do this. Later, I left that job, as you know. I did criminal defense work. I didn't mention that. I did death penalty cases. I defended people accused of murder. And I thought, wow, I really didn't know everything when I was only on the one side of that equation of prosecutor and defender. Then I go into family law work, and I have to tell you that everything that happens in a life, I've dealt with. You know, people have businesses, they have property, there's mental health issues, there's child issues, there's money, there's real property, just about everything. And so each job I have had has let me know how much I didn't know everything in the job before. You know, and it's experience, it's judgment. And so I feel like in my career, I've been exposed to so many things from so many different directions that every decision I have made going forward has been better than the last one because I'd learned something else along the way that helped me make a more informed decision.
Thank you, Linda. Lana, we have a question. Do you only work with children or do you work with adults?
I work with adults too. I belong to Bridgeway Community Church, which is a non-denominational church. And, I mentor people who are at different financial positions in their life, whether it's, right now I'm working with a young lady, but adult. I also do speaking engagements. I just did speaking engagements to 14 to 24-year-olds. So some in the middle school, some in the high schools, and some already going to college on financial literacy. So yes, I work with adults as well. And I just think it's so important that, I started with the children's book because I really wanted to get to the children and the parents at the same time so they can do it together. And I thought that was important. So that was why I named my company Generational Wealth and Wisdom. I want that, that knowledge to be passed on.
Great, thank you. And Stephen, are you looking for adult mentors for your program?
Yes, we're gonna need about 160 mentors into the 4 schools. We're gonna start recruiting in later next month, late March. Be training, and they would be introduced to their mentees in November.
So if somebody wanted to find out more about mentoring, go to your website.
Yeah, there's contact information there. It's ohanahc.org, or you can actually contact me. I'd be fine to talk. But I mean, we have people with all different skill sets. We got a Navy commander, child psychologists, former educators, engineers. I mean, and for someone later in life, I mean, you have this wealth, not financial wealth, but wealth. And it's also challenging because, probably many of us have raised kids, but connecting with a 14-year-old, it's, likely a different race. And, how do you do that? How do you build trust? How are you there for them? What kind of common things? It's not easy. It's not you can't come in as a substitute parent. So it's challenging, and you develop these relationships with the other people in your Ohana that are very deep. So, yeah.
Thank you, Stephen.
Sure.
And thank you, everyone, for the questions. The questions are fantastic. Please keep them coming. I have a question from our attendees for all 3 of you. What did you have to let go of to help you move to the next phase of your transition? Excellent question. So anybody want to take that to start with?
I'm happy to take that one, if you don't mind. When I moved from my own firm, Silverstein and Ostavis, to Offutt Kerman, I had to give up control. So I had about a 10-person firm. I was in charge. If I needed something done, it would happen immediately. I said, let's do it, and it was done. Then I moved to a big organization, a behemoth type of organization that had systems and process and procedure. It wasn't as easy as saying, okay, let's do this, and it was done. A lot of layers, that type of thing. So I had to give up a lot of control over processes that I had put into place in my firm, because of processes that are necessary when you have a bigger firm and multiple locations and that type of thing. So that's what I had to give up.
Excellent. Lana?
So for me, one of the things that I had to wrestle with is I am a certified information system security professional. All that says is I've passed this test and I know the 10 disciplines of cybersecurity and I can implement them. And it was a hard test. And so it was like, oh, do I want to give up my certifications, right? Because cybersecurity is a growing thing. It's going to be with us forever, I think. So I'm in the midst of that. And then I just said I had to give it up. Also, going into retirement, I had to give up half my pay, right? So that was a real thing. But it has all been worth it. because I love learning. So I just learned different things. The other thing I had to give up was not being able to call someone quickly and say, hey, can you tell me about this, or tell me about telecommunications, or tell me about this, in this government world where now you have to say, okay, now I'm doing this private industry wise. So entrepreneur, I need to figure out contacts that are doing this on an enterprise perspective. So it's kind of different.
Stephen?
Well, as an executive of a national organization, I had to give up an assistant. And, and basically, it was actually kind of cool because I didn't know very much about technology. I could do spreadsheets and that kind of stuff, but I relied on this person to do most stuff. And so, I think it's kept me, going back to what Linda said, it's kept me young or engaged, learning new stuff, having to learn new stuff as an older adult. We're always, I'm not, I'd say at 38, I was more mentally acute and more physically able to do stuff, right? I mean, most of us can make that statement. But okay, we've lost a step, but doesn't mean we're like useless. We just got to figure out how to do it. And, I think that taking on change is a real secret. I think Linda's done it in her career, and Lana's done it. You want to try different stuff.
Great. I think this also this is from an audience member. That's a great question for all three of you. What matters in transition? Should I look for a calling? Should I seek to put myself in new situations where I meet new and different people and try on or test a new path? In short, is it about looking inside or outside?
So I'll take, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, well, I would say look inside, absolutely. I mean, because so many of us have done jobs where, we've done them, because maybe, taking care of our family, money, that kind of stuff, maybe something you haven't really loved. And I would absolutely say first look inward, because you want to at least get a sense of what direction to go if you're interested in something before you, start to experiment.
So for me, one of the things that I did is I read this book, and you can also get it on YouTube, called The 7 Spheres of Wealth, and wealth being ideas, by Dr. Miles Monroe. And what that did in the 7 spheres are spiritual wealth, intellectual and emotional development, physical wealth, social and relationship wealth, influence wealth, which means make yourself valuable, community wealth, and generational wealth. And I wrote a goal for each one of those areas. I'm goal oriented. So I wrote a goal for each one of those areas, and I tried to see where I was doing something in each one of those 7 spheres, what I was currently doing and what I wasn't doing. And then I started looking at, well, what really am I passionate about? What is it that makes me just want to, give my time, my energy? And it was all around, financial literacy. So I would say, look at those 7 spheres and then look inward. Dream, vision, write things, journal, and see what keeps coming up. What types of book do you gravitate to? What type of activities do you gravitate to? What type of YouTube videos do you watch? Those are some of the key things that tells you, maybe that's your passion. And try it out, volunteer your time.
Linda, want to add any thoughts?
I was going to use the word passion like Lana just did, and Stephen really said the same thing without using that word. And I guess at this point in our lives, when you make a transition, it's voluntary. It may be a different conversation if it's not a voluntary transition, but if it is voluntary, it's an opportunity to maybe do something that really does fuel your spirit versus something that may not fuel your spirit, but you have to do it to raise your children and, keep your roof over your head, etc. So So I agree with what Lana and Stephen have said.
Thank you. Another question we have is, there are so many choices of things to do in retirement. How did you prioritize your potential choices? Another great question for all three of you. Who wants to take that first?
So like I said, for me, I looked at those 7 spheres and then I put literally, what am I doing in each one of those spheres? So for example, spiritual wealth, I go to Bible study, I read my Bible every day. Or for influence wealth, I'm on a board of Andrews Federal Credit Union Service Quality Advisory Committee. So I try to look at every portion of my life. Physical, I love golf. I love walking. So I try to align my life with something in each one of those areas. And then, of course, intellectual and emotional development. I love learning. So YouTube is definitely your friend. You can learn how to do anything. I learned how to build a website on YouTube. So you can, that's the beauty of YouTube. It's just wonderful.
For me, it was really, my focus wasn't as detailed as Lana's. It was really on just doing stuff to help people. I mean, that was the bottom line for me, was, okay, what can I do? Because it was kind of selfish in the sense that I was getting enormous gratification from helping people. And it's like, I think that's the secret to life. And, you know, was able to do it somewhat in work, but not very much. Now, you know, kind of the sky's the limit. And I think that's, for me, that's kind of where it was.
Excellent. Thank you, Stephen. Linda, any thoughts? Or
I'm not retired, as I've said, so I have no idea what that's going to look like, but hopefully I'll have lots of choices and I'll have to answer this question. How do I prioritize them?
So great questions, everybody. Thank you. We have another question. Was there ever a time when you felt lost? How did you continue to move forward during your transition? Did you have a support network?
Well, I felt lost twice that I can mention. And once, as I've shared, was when I lost my husband and I didn't know what to do or what end was up or how to basically put one foot in front of the other. And I had a tremendous support network of family and friends and Gilchrist Hospice. I had a tremendous support network. And, you know, what they did for me was made me get up, keep moving, do something. Doesn't matter what it is, just do something. Even if it meant driving to the post office 3 times a day because I wrote 3 checks to pay a bill or something like that. And so I feel like to some extent, you know, there was a wave that kept me moving. And hopefully we all have a wave for different reasons, hopefully, but we have that wave. The second time was when I think I said, this was after I had gone to Alfred Kerman and I just was so tired of all the fighting and battling and I didn't know what to do. And so I actually reached out to somebody who worked in state government to say, I'm a big fan of our governor. Are there any jobs available where I could, you know, participate in the good that I saw him doing? And I had a number of people sort of point me in various directions such that I, you know, had some interviews and so forth. And I was contemplating leaving the practice of law. But I will tell you that as that was happening, which I thought was where I wanted to go, I discovered that wasn't where I wanted to go. And simultaneously, the management scenario at Alfred Kerman was opening up for me. So I'm a big believer that, you know, you never accomplish anything by yourself. And, you know, I might not run with a particular pack of people, but you don't accomplish anything on your own. So there is a support group out there, and it may not be well formed, and it may not be that, you know, every Thursday night you go meet together or anything. But I do think that most of us are fortunate enough to have a support group, even though they're not named, people we trust, people who will share their opinions with us, whether we want them or not. I think we all have them, but they just come to us in various ways.
So for me, actually, I just lost a dear, dear person who I was mentoring and talking to every day. So just recently, I felt that loss, not a loss from the transition from my, my career to my business, Generational Wealth and Wisdom. But the beauty of it all, and the beauty of it all is the person I lost, her mother and I have become very close. And so that's, one door closes, another one opens. So that door open, I do have a very good support group. My husband is like my major support group because he knows when I'm getting whatever I'm going to get. If I'm going to go high, okay, I'm going to go, or if I'm getting low. Also, one of the things I would tell you, know your happy place. My happy place is the beach. That's my happy place. And on the golf course, that's my happy place. But I do have a group of girlfriends, and we call ourselves the mastermind, where we can be vulnerable, we can be ourselves, we trust each other. We've been knowing each other for about 29 years. We were in an investment club together, so we do life together, and we've chosen to do the next phase of our lives together. But instead of focusing on, money and things like that, it's like just pure, let's just enjoy each other without any stipulations on it, where we have to do homework for the investment club, or we have to do anything, we can do anything we want. So that's one of the things I've done.
And my support system, it sounds like, was Linda's support system when Jim was still around, and with Lana, with her husband, it's my wife, Susan. That and probably our 2 adult children we're very close to, have intimate conversations, and yeah, so that's it.
Great. Another great question. How do you develop self-insight about how your body and health is changing? Are you preparing or responding? Do you have a view about the next several stages?
This is just funny. Like Marcy's even laughing. For me, I thank goodness I enjoy working out. I do enjoy working out, lifting weights, and I do walk 3 miles a day. I can't stand the cold, so I'm always transitioning inside and outside. But body changing, I'm 58, so I haven't hit 60 yet. I don't even know what 60 is going to do for me, but I'm telling you, I know I have no control. That's what I do know. And so I'm gonna just go with the flow. I'm just gonna work what I can work out, and what I can't, I'm just gonna pray about it. That's it.
For me, medical care is so kind of segmented that Susan and I started to do stuff, we're the same age, where if it was a significant meeting with a doctor, both of us would go, and the person who wasn't the subject of the doctor would be taking notes. I mean, we do that. And the other thing that's happened is both of us got cancer. Susan got breast cancer in her mid-60s, a little bit before. I got bladder cancer, and we both got it early, lucky, had to go through significant long-term treatment. But it's kind of made us hyper vigilant, and really trying to make sure that we're really conservative with a doctor that we have. Kind of our rule is we aren't going to have any doctor unless they're like in their 40s or early 50s, because we want to make sure that they're around, longer in practice than we're going to be around. And yeah, so the other thing of getting sick, this is going to sound weird, but it was a giant motivator for me because, I always, my parents lived a long time. Susan's dad lived a long time. And, I think when we retire in our 60s, we think, oh, we're going to, make it to our mid 80s or something, but you just don't know. And it was a giant wake up call. And that's one of the reasons why we moved so quickly on Ohana, because we don't know what time we got. And I think if anyone takes anything away from this conversation, they're contemplating retirement, is you don't know how much you have. And I think Linda's a good example with her husband, Jim. I mean, just, it's this thing from left field that happens and you just don't know. So you got to move. You got to use the time you have.
I love that you said that, Stephen, because I just have to share personally, thank goodness, we never waited for retirement to live our life. And, I find myself saying from time to time, if you knew my Jim, you'd never think he was the guy who would get sick. He was handsome, sexy, fun, healthy, played golf, worked out. He was not the guy who this was going to happen to. And I hear people, have heard people over the years say, well, when I retire, I'm going to do such and such. And I have to say, don't wait, because we never got retirement together. I'm telling you, we lived a fabulous life. We traveled. I mean, we never put off life. So I was not cheated in that regard. But I think people do operate under the assumption that they know what the future is going to bring. And we don't. So to answer the question though, Lana, I don't like any of those things you do. But today was the first day of me making a commitment. I was down on the treadmill, I don't like to walk. I don't like to work out. I don't go to the gym. I don't play golf. But today was the first day of turning over a new leaf. So
I'm going to give you a hint.
Inspire me, dear.
Hint.
Yes.
I try to do another thing that I love. I love listening to self-help books. So I do audio books.
Okay.
So I'm learning, like if it's something that I don't know about, but I want to learn it because I need to know it for my business or something, I just totally, like I was listening to the metaverse. I'm like, okay, if I'm going to be investing, what is this metaverse stuff? So I downloaded a book on metaverse. While I was walking, I started learning about metaverse. So I'm accomplishing two things. Plus my heart's getting stronger. My legs are getting stronger, so I'm thinking about all those other things that go, the endorphins are releasing. Or if you love music, put whatever your oldies is on and start singing. I'm one of these people who sing outside if I'm.
That's great advice. Thank you.
Or a good mystery book. If you like good mysteries, and you can only listen to the book when you're walking.
Okay. Good advice. Great advice. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we have another question here. We're coming up on top of the hour, but I think we have time for a couple more questions. What do you each see as the confirmation that you made the right choices?
Well, I feel better. I have more energy. I don't have any sense of dread on Sunday night that, oh no, it's Monday and I got to go back to work. So I feel better. I guess that's my short answer.
Okay.
So
Lana?
mine is, once I retired, it's the first time I started living without stress. I mean, major stress. It was eliminated in my life. And you don't know how much stress you're under until you're you kind of get out from underneath it. The other thing is when people read my book, or if I do, one of my customers work with me and they get that aha moment. Like I had a customer the other day and I was showing her some stuff. She was like, yes, it was just, her eyes just got big and she was just like, yes, this is perfect. And so just the feedback from the customers or the person who read the book with their child, or, whatever the case may be, is so rewarding. It's just so rewarding.
And for me, it's just been a lot of confirmation from other people who, some of the students, their families, mentors, people on our committees, they're just, everyone is getting affected by what we're trying to do. And it's just, the whole idea of creating something that's a sum that's greater than the sum of the parts, right? You went on, and yeah, that's my confirmation.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us and sharing your experiences and perspective and wisdom with us. I would like you to just, we have one last question about Lana's book. We will, in the follow-up email that we send out to this email, we'll include a link to the Ohana website. I know that came up about adult mentors. We'll send a link out to Lana's book so you can see where to get it. But if you guys could just wrap up, I would like to give you each a couple minutes just to add any closing thoughts that you'd like to share, as well as, I always love to ask, what kind of advice would you give to somebody contemplating this transition, including yourself? Like, what advice would you give yourself if you could go back and tell yourself something that you should do? And let's start with Linda. Sorry, since we ended with you, do you mind starting?
I don't mind starting. I would say, aside from the tragedy in my life, I wouldn't change anything in terms of the choices I made. I've had a tremendous career. I've ended up in good places given, what I have done. I don't have a clue of what is next. But to go back to the question someone asked, that related to age, it doesn't matter. It's a state of mind. I continue to be a contributor, a force, somebody who makes a difference. And that's irrespective of age. So I think some people, I don't know. I was going to say, don't let yourself be driven by the number that's on your birthday cake, because it doesn't have anything necessarily to do with what you've got left to give. So that would be my thought.
Lana?
So for me, I'm going to say what Linda said. One of the things is live your life today. This is all we have, is the present. So if, travel with your loved ones, visit your loved ones, make a vision for your life, set your goals out, and then choose them. I'm doing my 60 for 60. I turned 60 in next year. So I'm doing what's my 60 activities I want to get done before I turn 60. That gives me a vision of where I want to go. I also do a vision board. Sometimes we don't know what we want, but if we start pinning things up, we tend to figure it out. But live your life today. Live your life today. It's just so important. Don't wait until you retire. Just live it today.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Stephen,
Well,
I'm going to hand it over to you.
Yeah,
to close
I feel
out.
like such a slacker after Lana talks. I would say take chances, get out of your comfort zone, have fun, and figure out a way to serve, to help other people in whatever form or fashion you can do that.
Well, thank you. A huge thank you to the three of you. This has been fantastic, inspirational. Thank you for sharing your journey and your story and, even some of the more personal aspects. I know that people took a lot away from this. I was just writing down some words that kept occurring over and over. I was writing goals, goal setting, feeling young, engaged, learning, growth, experiment, contribution, a force. And these are all words that we typically associate with the younger part of our lives. That's what I was thinking. And here we are having this conversation, and that's a stereotype. No, I mean, that this whole conversation was about that. But on the plus side, the words that came up that we don't necessarily have when we're younger were voluntary, passion, choice, experience. I mean, that's really kind of the best of the both worlds, right? So thank you for sharing and passing that on to us. Anybody have any questions after the fact, just send them off to us and we'll be sure to get some answers for you. I just had a couple slides I wanted to go through, and that take just a minute of your time, and hopefully we'll get you out of here a few minutes early. Just wanted to share some things that we have upcoming. April 5th, we're having a free workshop on health equity for the Latino community in Howard County. Through a grant with the Horizon Foundation, we've been putting some presentations on about health equity throughout the year. It's going to be a fantastic workshop. The information's on our website. We also have some programs that are going to be coming out this year, a retirement transition program. Some more information about our Legacy Leadership Institute for Civic Engagement, which will help. We hope both those programs will help people plan out and think consciously and intentionally about the second half of their lives. As well as we'll continue to have some programming on health and wellness, which is, we were talking about, an important aspect of this part of your life. We'd like to thank our partners, Howard County Rex and Park, who's hosting this for us, their encore programs. Make sure to check out what they have. The Horizon Foundation, Howard County Office on Aging and Independence, as well as their age-friendly Howard initiative, and also the Speak Easy Howard program that Horizon Foundation has put together. So you should check it out. It's a great way to get your, as we were talking about today, we never know what's going to happen, your end of life documents in order, and have that conversation with family members. We also, check out our website at www.thispointforward.org. We have a lot of great information and resources up there on health and wellness, retirement planning, as well as our upcoming events. And great ways to connect with us is as we said, our website. We also have a LinkedIn and Facebook page. And I also want to thank Donna Weaver and the Wendy Slaughter Group, Elevate Realty, again, for sponsoring this program. We couldn't do these kind of programs without our sponsors. And a big thank you to our three panelists. You guys were fabulous. Thank you for sharing your experiences, your wisdom, and your knowledge with us.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Yeah.
Really.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Everybody have a wonderful night.
You too. Thanks so much.